Kings Island's parent company, Six Flags' latest Halloween push, is a little darker than usual. Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is available anywhere you can get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. So hit that subscribe button to keep up with the most trusted place for all things Kings Island. Now, as you mentioned, Six Flags recently released a Halloween Haunt themed video. This is what it looked like.
I need to hit the restroom. Anyone else? Don't touch my drink. Gotcha.
Guys, ¿dónde estáis? Chico?
Hello? You lost the talent. Should be outside. You know, that mask looks like a guy who used to work here last year. Wonder what happened to him.
So, Ryan, what's it all about? We've got this new sinister character named Smiley. It was created by TMA, part of Omnicom. It's this film. It's not your typical theme park type promo.
It is not. And as you probably figured out, if we still have you, it is over 7 minutes long. Very well done. Very cinematic. Had kind of like a B movie quality to it. But I don't know what they're trying to do with this. First of all, the story was a little bit nonsensical. It kind of like some stuff kind of distracted me, like the very beginning when the guy gets up and he says, "I'm going to use the bathroom," and then he walks into the woods. It's like, I didn't know you were allowed to do that at the Six Flags parks. What was he going to do in the woods? Right. Was he a bear? And then they had a lot of stuff where it would be nighttime and they'd intertwine roller coaster shots during the day. Are they going anywhere with this, you think? Like, do you think that the Smiley character that's on there is going to be their icon or something?
I don't know. I mean, there really wasn't any kind of, explanation. It was just, I mean, like I said, it was a very well done video, very well produced, shot, everything like that. But it just, the first thing that you get asked when people see this and they see it associated with Six Flags and posted on Kings Island's, social channels, and that is that the experience that you get at Kings Island when you go to Halloween Haunt? Is it leading people or misleading people, when they see that this is not what you're going to get, and they go there. If this is their first impression of Halloween Haunt and they go to the park, they're going to be disappointed.
I mean, I would argue that, obviously the stuff in this was filmed at a different park and so on, but something like Conjuring and Order of the Dragon holds up against what you see in this. But I would be concerned with comparing this to, the Scare Zones or Kill Mart or Slaughterhouse or anything like that, where it's all understaffed and so on. We litigated this a lot when they made a video like this, but much shorter last year, where it was like, what are they trying to accomplish? If they're trying to get people to go to Kings Island, or really probably most of the Six Flags, I think they were Six Flags at the time when they did the video, but are they trying to set themselves up for disappointment where, oh my God, it's this crazy immersive event, and then you go and it's just not? Like, is it like that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory thing that was out in Sweden where they had a bunch of AI generated images and people showed up and it was like a warehouse and things built out of boxes? I mean, I feel like the event is very half baked, and I like that they're doing this. I like this direction.
I
like
do
that they're
too.
bringing the lore.
And right, yeah, Six Flags. I mean, they're not new to this kind of approach. Other parks have done that. And you mentioned they did something similar last year. I think it was called Tick 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 was the name of that video last year. Got a lot of attention. People were talking about it. So that was what you wanted. Mission accomplished there. People were talking about it. But I think the way that they're leaning into this, the long form, 7+ minutes branded horror. It's now kind of a statement. The park is treating the Halloween event like it's a full-blown storytelling experience, not just your seasonal decorations. I think it's a smart move. I really do. I think it's you're blending marketing and entertainment, and it shows they're doubling down on the thrill seeker, that type of audience there, the thrill seeker audience. I think they're doubling down on that, and that's who they're going after. But like I said, I thought it was very well done. People are going to talk about it, but we still don't know where they're going with this.
So what I want, we kind of touched on this. I think it's a little long. 7 minutes is too long. I want 4 minutes, and I want it for the new attraction each year. They should have made one for Order of the Dragon. I want to know the backstory, and then I want to be able to see it for myself, because that maze really delivers on it. Now, with that being said, I think they plan to scale. They're going to bring Order of the Dragon to other parks and stuff, because they sunk the design elements and now they can just copy it. But that would be a great way to add to the immersion. Now, I've mentioned this before, but at the at Universal, I always do the tour when you go through the houses, and they say, oh, this happens, and then this happens, and this happens. And even with their quality, going in blind, there's no way that you would ever pick up on the story. There's just no way. But after you hear the story, you appreciate the house more. Well, this would be kind of the same thing. You watch a video, you get the backstory, and then you go through the house. And this would be a great way to sell tickets to tease. And, I would even say in like Order of the Dragon, they could have filmed it in there. It looks that good, or heck, the Conjuring would be a little bit more difficult with the copyrights and stuff. But, I do like the direction they're going. 7 minutes is too long. A lot of that would have been on the chopping room floor with me, but I want to see something like that every year, promoting whatever the new maze is.
I think when you look at a video like this, from the marketing perspective, what you're telling your audience is, guests, they're not just buying tickets, they're buying an experience when they come to Halloween Haunt, an adrenaline rush, a real story out there. And Smiley, might just be the start of a Six Flags horror universe, its own character. And it'll be interesting to see, if other parks, follow suit with the cinematic character, driven Halloween campaigns like Kings Island, Six Flags are now doing.
They'd be crazy not to take a shot at it to see if Smiley sticks.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance, but you can't just pop it out there one time. They posted it on their X, they posted it on Facebook, but I think you have to kind of put it out there, multiple times, once a week or something, just to get Smiley to be something that people are talking about more, becomes a recognizable character. And, then you see where it takes you. But I do like the direction that they're going. I think it's very immersive, creative. I think it was a well-written story. I like what they're doing. I just hope that it isn't something that paints a picture that's not there for guests. The first-time guests. The season pass holders, they all know that's not Halloween Haunt, but they're entertained by the video. to get them excited, pumped up for Halloween Haunt. It does do that. But I think that you got to be a little cautious with it. But I think they need to be, you've introduced Smiley. Now, what are you going to do with Smiley?
Smiley needs his own house next year. And
He does.
if they have a house based off of an icon and it's repeatable and they've got videos like this. Now, one thing I will say is I don't know about Six Flags because, obviously the arithmetic has changed with this a little bit. This was done by TMA, which is part of Omnicron. So this was like outsourced. Kings Island historically has always spent a good amount of money to bring in a third party to do something. They do a great job for a few years. And then Kings Island's like, we can do this cheaper. I'd be concerned if with the level of social media that a lot of the regions have right now, them putting their hands on something like this locally, it would probably be like, this is Smiley and a bunch of emojis and stuff, and have the wrong dates and all sorts of stuff like that. But if they keep it as separate as possible from the parks, they bring in, I don't know if the agency had anything to do with this. Probably just this creative group came up with all this stuff. But they keep it intense and they keep it meaningful, then I think that they could have a future. Again, I would do 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes at the most. I think 7 was too long.
Yeah, I think once you get past 5 minutes, you've kind of, with videos on social media, you've kind of lost, the attention span. They're going to start to scroll to their next thing, get a little, little impatient.
Why not break this up and release it every day for a week in 90-second increments? So, you got to build up, something cool happens, it ends. Build up, something cool happens, it ends. And then maybe have it all to come together at the end. Now, the end was a little inconclusive. I think that maybe there's more to this story. I would hope so, because
that would not surprise me if, even by the time that this episode, is seen, that a second or third video has even dropped, because it doesn't seem to me with the, what they put into this, that it would just be a one and done kind of video. So I do think there's going to be more. When do we get that? I don't know. But by the time you're watching this, maybe there is that second, maybe there is that third video out there.
I mean, they clearly put a lot of money into this. And if the second part, if there is a second part, if it's not out by the time this episode drops, you're starting to get dangerously close to the end of Haunt, putting a lot of money into promoting it.
Now, the other parks that have put that out there, the one thing that is, the people aren't responding necessarily to the video, commenting about that. What they've been talking about is complaining about the upcharges for mazes, and I bought my pass and this wasn't what I was supposed to be getting, and I'm not renewing my pass next year. I refuse to pay for the mazes. That's not what the parks want to see in the comments. And I do think, everybody's been heard, from the, early August or middle of August, whenever that was announced, to the opening of the different Halloween events throughout the legacy Cedar Fair parks. Everybody's been heard. You don't have to be happy about it. They're not going to change what they're doing. But now it's time to just kind of go back. This is what the event is. Focus on the event, and just, go from there. Again, you don't have to be happy. That's an upcharge now, but you don't need to every single post that a park makes be talking about the upcharges and how you're not going to, renew your pass next year, and you're not going to open your wallet and take part. You're just going to go sit there and watch everybody else do it. Just kind of, it's time to move on. This is what it is. Everybody has kind of spoken, but now it's time to just talk about what the park's doing with Halloween Haunt in terms of the experience. And this video is one of those things that they're doing to help promote it. So, as they go into this, and if they do more videos and that, keep the focus on what you think about the video. Is it too long, like Ryan said? Is it given a false representation of Haunt, like I said? Do you think it's the right direction? Do you think it was really well done? Those are the kind of things that, I'd like to see in the comments on the park social channels.
Yeah, and your vote isn't in the comment section. Your vote is your credit card, because we're cashless.
Yeah.
I've said, like, make this decision that's best for you. I think that it's worth giving it a shot, especially The Conjuring and Order of the Dragon. But don't ever get into a situation where they don't have to earn your business anymore. If it comes next year and nothing's new and it's all the same, then it's kind of like, maybe I'll also kind of sit out and not do the mazes this year. But if they're going to do this regardless, so let's make the best of it, and if it ends up being a good venture and they realize, well, people are going to pay for it, we actually have to deliver, that's going to be the best possible outcome for Haunt. But yeah, the
I'm
comment
still
section,
hopeful, after what I'm seeing about Order of the Dragon, what I'm seeing about Conjuring, that if that's the kind of level that they're going to have, those have been very positive reviews about them. And if that's something like next year, they take another 2 existing mazes that have been there and they upgrade those. And then the next year they do another 2. And then by the time they get to the next 2, it's time to go back and revisit Order of the Dragon, and redo that one. So those are the kind of things that I want to see. Is this something that you're going to actually, put the effort into and improving all those other mazes with something now? You've set the bar now with Order of the Dragon. You set the bar with the Conjuring. The expectation is going to be any new maze has to be at that level. So hopefully they do that. But now that everyone has seen Smiley, the Smiley film, Ryan, we want to hear, what our listeners think. Creepy and spooky enough for you? Just a tease. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, leave us a comment, your thoughts on it. Do you think it's a good representation? Was it too long? Did you enjoy it? Do you want to see more parts? Down in the comment section. We'd love to hear it.
All right, now a word from Land of Illusion Haunted Scream Park.
Feel the pulse of terror at the nation's #1 rated haunt. Head to America's most visited scream park. Land of Illusion, the ultimate haunted destination. 6 bone-chilling attractions. All-night fun with a full bar and a food court to fuel your adventure. Will you conquer the scares? Land of Illusion. Get tickets now at landofillusion.com.
Hey, Don, let's give a shout out to our Prestige members. I want to thank Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Dakota Cole, Eric Grau, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Lack Ray, Galaxy B-Boy, Medic 302, Eastern Coaster, guys and girls, Justin Y, and Mike Garrett. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers can give some free stuff. So hit that link if you want to be on board. Make sure you do it on our web browser. It's cheaper there. All right. Don, let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. Buy or sell. Tricks and Treats will get a rebrand next year to make pass holders and others think there's something new, but it will be the same thing, just under a new name and logo. Buy or sell.
I'm going to sell. I think the Tricks and Treats family-friendly event, I think it's something that will stick. They tried different things every 2 or 3 years. It seemed like there was a different name. Remember, it was like Hallowfest one year. And so I do think that, they're onto something there. It's starting to get that brand recognition. Now that it's out in the main park, I think that has helped as well, too. Before they tried it, it was in Soak City Water Park. It was in Picnic Grove. They tried it in the kids area. So I think the way it's a little more immersive now around the park, I think that is, played well. But I think that's, the name recognition is now there with Kings Island Guest. So I do not see them moving away from Tricks and Treats.
Yeah, I think Tricks and Treats is fine. It's got a good reputation. Now, there is some kind of cheap moves. Like, I don't know if they had this last year, but this year they got a punch card, and you go to each trick or treat thing. They give you like the one Tootsie Roll, and then they punch your card, so you can't go back and get a second Tootsie Roll or whatever. And now, mind you, it's sponsored by Hershey's, I think. It was Kroger and Hershey's last year. I don't know if it is this year. So they're probably getting the candy for free. But I guess people were... you go to Mickey's Not So Scary, and you see pictures of people with like just garbage bags full of candy. Like, and they're
decent size candy too. The ones
Yeah.
at Kings Island, it's barely the length of your index finger. It's the real small pieces that you get too. So yeah, it would be nice if you got some bigger pieces. But for me, Ryan, the one thing that I'd like to see with Tricks and Treats is for it to become even more of a food event. There's a few things, here and there. You look at the menu that they released, definitely scaled down from what it was a couple years ago.
Sure.
I'd like to see it, get back, be a little bit more immersive, make it more about that on the Saturdays and Sundays, that guests, will see that it's a limited time event and they will come for the food, stay for the rides. So I think that's something I'd like to see, is just a little bit more effort into the food. And it's something too that it's hard to find sometimes, because it's now, it's always inside the restaurants. And they do have some of the signage stuff outside, but as people are walking down in, they're busy, they're looking at their phone and all that other kind of stuff. I like to see them bring out some of the booths and that, like they used to do for Grand Carnival, and do it that way with Tricks and Treats.
There is one of the red tents that they put up for Grand Carnival over by like Graders that's been up all season. I don't know if they're using that for Tricks or Treats or not. Maybe it's for an activity or something, but that was built. Tricks and Treats is another thing that I feel like could be monetized in terms of they got the meal plans, and they really shot themselves in the foot with the whole meal plan thing. Because if they had different food offerings and people came for that, that would be revenue. But I think that instead of having, 6 new food items with 5 on the meal plan and 1 being the one that nobody gets because it's not on the meal plan, have it so it's like smaller things, but like don't be so greedy about the price. Like if it is like a little pastry or something, charge $4 or $5 for it rather than $8 and then nobody wants it because, for double that you can get a whole meal. Like I feel like that's the trap they run into. The tasting cards would be a good idea. Hello.
It would be good to bring back the tasting cards for Tricks and Treats. I think that's an outstanding suggestion there, Ryan, for them to do. But I think when you look at the majority of the Kings Island guests, especially the pass holder base, it's families, and families like to come out during the day. So Saturdays and Sundays, this is an event that I think is it's done well. Those that attend, they like it, but it's still, everything's about the haunt. All their marketing efforts, for the most part, it's all about Halloween haunt. But I think if they were to put that same kind of effort into promoting Tricks and Treats, I think their daytime attendance on the Sundays would improve, and you'd see even more people coming on the Saturdays to enjoy Tricks and Treats. With families having that, and especially in the fall when when the weather shifts and that. I mean, it's a great time to come to Kings Island.
It is, and we talked about either last week or the week before, where it's kind of like, well, they could get rid of haunt and they could just put all their eggs in the basket of Tricks and Treats, but that's such a Kings Island mentality where it's got to be the sum of the two has to equal 0. If they promote Tricks and Treats and they get an extra 6,000 people in the park, and then they have a turnover, and then they have another 25,000 people in the park for haunt, that's like 2 days worth of attendance right there. It doesn't have to be that, we're going to add a live show to Tricks and Treats and get rid of Halloween haunt or anything like that. They can promote. I mean, they don't even really need to add to Tricks and Treats. I think it's fine, because I think that the rides kind of complement it much better than they do for haunt. But
they do.
But if they promote it, it's done right. They make sure people are aware of it, because I bet the people that visit are the ones that have already been to it. Like I would love to see how many individual tickets they sell for daytime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to see it, in the park, feel more like an event. I mean, you see the different signage and things for it, and you do see the trick or treat stops and that for the kids, but for the most part, it doesn't, like haunt. You're at an event.
Yeah.
It's a different type of thing. So I'd like to see that kind of vibe for Tricks and Treats.
I'd love to see it too. All right. We'll be right back with the listener questions. All right. First listener question. Brandy from Wilmington, Ohio said, I've enjoyed adult beverages offered at Halloween Haunt. Why hasn't the park done more promoted as part of Haunt? I think it would help draw more of the 21 and over crowd on Thursday and Friday nights.
I agree with Brandy that I think there's an opportunity there to promote, some part of that. I think what you would need to have to really make that work, in addition to promoting that, you'd have to have drink specials, like half price drinks or something on a Thursday night to make that really work. There's a lot of ideas that I have that I won't share on this podcast because it would make the park money. So I don't want to share.
They're gonna have to buy
those
these ideas off of you.
Yeah. I'm not going to put everything out there because there's a lot of things that we've suggested. You and I both have suggested that we've seen them kind of do, or change some things in that. So they do listen to what we have to say. But I do think that she's got a point that it's not something that's ever been really a focal point. It's available. But I think they could really do some cool things. I think there's a way to make Thursday night, a home run for the park. And it wouldn't have to, there's trouble staffing the park on Thursdays, as we're going to find, with the mazes and the rides and that's going to be a scramble to have everything be on a Thursday night what it is on a Friday or Saturday. So with that being the case, and as you and I go to experience it on Thursdays, and others, our listeners experience it on Thursdays, and they notice these different things. Okay, what can be done to make Thursday different than the Friday, Saturday? It's still haunt. You still have the mazes. What can be done to make that something that 21 and over crowd wants to come to the park on a Thursday night? And there's a lot of things, like I said, that they can do, but I'll keep that, right now to myself.
Keep it under your hat, sir. Yeah, for me, I think it's a logistical problem because if they start promoting drinks, somebody goes into Kings Island, they're like, I'm going to enjoy an adult beverage. And the problem is you can never find a bar at Kings Island. There just aren't any. That was a joke. There's way too
I know it was a joke. I paused to let our listeners laugh.
Oh, you paused for the laugh track? I got to put in the laugh track now.
You should put a laugh track there. I paused for the laugh there. But yeah, so what's the next question we have?
Okay. Well, before we go to the next question, if you have your own questions, you can email them to us at hosts, HOSTS, @towertopics.com. That's hosts @towertopics.com. Your first name, the city you're from, as well as your question, comment, concern. We'd love to hear from you. Also, you can send us a text or a voicemail to 513-399-7538. That's 513-399-7538. If you send us a text, we'll read it. Send us a voicemail, we might play it on the air, but we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Our next question comes from Ty from Indian Hill. He said, I attended Halloween Haunt, and I got to be honest, it flat out sucked. No energy by the actors in the houses. Not enough of them at any of the houses. I thought making them an upcharge would improve them. It didn't. The Conjuring was out of East Egypt with the line, but I did it, and it was just okay. I felt my group was rushed through. The best one was Order of the Dragon. I don't know if it was really good or just appeared so compared to the others. If they're not going to make it scary like it used to be, why not just go the Dollywood route and make it a daytime thing centered around food?
Well, first of all, sorry that you didn't have a good experience there, Ty. It's the Conjuring and Order of the Dragon. I mean, they both have received, really good reviews. But I will say that we've also heard, that there is a lack of the scare actors. The energy of those that are there, hasn't been great or as good as it has been in previous years. These are the things, again, we're reading it online, social media posts, sentiment reports and that we pull, what people are saying about Kings Island and Halloween Haunt. So it's not, us saying that, it's the, what visitors to the park are saying, with the sentiment. Not enough in any of the houses. That's in recent years, that's been a chronic complaint. They have to address that. If they're going to charge, they certainly have to improve that situation and make it, these mazes more immersive with more scare actors and that in there. But I think that, we've talked about the Dollywood route. It works for them. It's a daytime, nighttime kind of thing there, but it's not focused on the scares and that. It's more of the family event. I do think that could work if Kings Island were to do that and went that route. I think people love the night rides on the Beast, Mystic Timbers, Orion, Diamondback. And I think if they made an event, they had a lot of Halloween decor. They made it about food. They put in some different shows, brought in maybe some different acts and things, some live bands and that. I think they could get away with going the Dollywood route. But I think right now, it's too soon to really be talking about that. I still think that, Haunt's still very popular. We see that, people still talk about it. People still want to go. And we're just 2 weeks into it. And it seems like, everybody's kind of wanting something different than what they're doing right now.
Ken from Bowling Green, Ohio said, "Hey, Don, why does Ryan always end every episode? It's like he has to get the last word in. Maybe it's by design. I don't know. Just curious. Love Tower Topics. Looking forward to your online store." Hey, that's the first time we've had a plug for the online store in the listener question. You want me to address this?
No, I'll address it. First of all, I think it's just the way it kind of worked out. There were some episodes early on, where we kind of rotated back and forth. But depending on the way it goes, we had a shift a little over a year ago where, one time we were alternating with the questions and that.
Yeah.
But it's, we had to switch it to where, Ryan was reading the questions and I was responding to it. So I just think it's just the way that it kind of worked out, where he ends it. One of us has to end it, so, I don't know. I don't know that it's by design. I think it's just the way it kind of evolved and the way it's going.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I never really thought about this. But the main reason I think that I'm the one who ends the show is I'm literally the one that hits the end recording button. I hit the stop button. So it's kind of preventing the whole, like, okay, are we done yet? Are we done yet? Where it's like, when the vibe is over, I just make that call. And we've never really had a problem where, I've hit the end of the recording and you were like, oh, wait, I forgot to say this or whatever.
No, not at all. Not at all. But like I said, one of us has to end it. So, like I said, it's just the way it kind of evolved. And if you go back to some of our first 4 or 5 episodes, and I hope you don't, because we didn't like the way those came out. We've changed. We've got a much better platform now to record and everything on.
Yeah.
But it was just something, okay, you open, I close. It was like whoever opened, the other one closed. And I just think it kind of evolves. And then where some of the different things, we start talking about how to send your questions, or, if you want to buy a T-shirt, so whoever was saying that, so it's just the way it kind of evolved.
Yeah. And also, it should be noted that I produce the show. So if you notice that I'm the one who transitions us from one segment to the next, a lot of that is because I have to put the note on the show sheet of when to put in the graphics, or I have to do whatever. So I've really got to have the reins of, okay, now we're doing this or whatever. And it's, I mean, if Don ever wanted the power to do that, I imagine he would say so. But somebody has to take the reins and be like, okay, time for
Well, yeah, well, we were going to go that route where we were going to, I was going to do some of the producing things and just situations, some, came up to where, even vision wise, it would be hard for me to focus on the show and focus on putting in graphics and pushing the button to stop and all those kind of things. So it just works out better to where my focus can be on the overall like content of it, and just putting a lot of the basics, for the show together with the notes and everything. Like here's the topic, and based on that topic, here's kind of, the outline, so it flows, so we kind of know we don't want to bring up something, at the beginning of the episode if it fits in better at the end. So mine is more structuring, when something might get mentioned in terms of the flow, and then Ryan's more of the, like he said, producing it and pushing the buttons.
Yeah. And it's kind of like I wouldn't begin to be able to come up with 3 episode ideas. There's just no way.
No, and I sit there like every day I go through and, if I'm watching a ball game, or a football game or something, during the commercial breaks, that I'm pulling sentiment reports into what are people talking about? What can Ryan and I do this week? What's of interest to our listeners? These episodes are not necessarily what Ryan and I want to talk about. It's what you want to talk about, because that's what you're doing. You're talking about that on the Facebook group. You're talking about that on X. You're just talking about on your own channels and that. So we're focused on you, what you're talking about. That's kind of where the the inspiration for the episodes comes from, is what you're saying. And that's something that I pull and put that stuff together, and then Ryan does all the producing stuff.
I make it look cool. I also should note that I would say the vast majority of the time you open too. I open some episodes, but it's definitely not half. But honestly, it works better this way. This is the groove we got into.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it's like I don't see it as a big deal. Don, if you want to close any episodes, you let me
No,
know.
no.
I don't know if you've secretly wrote this question to try to.
I was a starting pitcher in baseball, not the closer.
Okay, yeah, I'm only good for like 3 pitches, so I'm definitely the closer. But I appreciate the question though, and if anybody has questions about that with the show, we're open to that too.
And Ty, we can't wait for you to see the online store. I think.
Yeah.
Power Topics. There's going to be a lot of fun things. Fun type merchandise, out there.
New merch store October 13th. So we're both looking forward to that. Do we have a Facebook group, Don?
10 a.m. will be the time that the online store officially opens on the 13th. So just 10 a.m. go to the store and browse it. Hopefully you make some purchases in that and you like what you see. And if you have any suggestions for merchandise too, let us know. Same way that you sent the question. But yes, we have a Facebook group, and it is easy to find. Yeah, easy to find. You just go to Tower Topics on Facebook and just click to join the group. And if you're a fan of Kings Island, it's going to be a good place to be. It already is. It's a place to share your park experiences, ask questions, meet new Kings Island fans. We'll be doing some fun things through the Facebook group as we get into the times where Kings Island isn't open. Maybe there's going to be some meetup opportunities. It's been suggested, we go to a Cyclones game. We might go back to Scene 75. So just do a lot of different things. And all that would be communicated for the most part in that Facebook group. So, if you're a fan of Kings Island, you're a fan of Tower Topics, join the group.
Don, just to trip up Ken from Bowling Green, Ohio, you want to close us out for this one?
Do I want to close it out? Okay, I will close it out. Okay, let me go back. I got to get out of the starting rotation thing as far as being a pitcher. Okay, here I go. He's Ryan Sir. I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.